although I'm an atheist, I cannot disprove your claim. So I'm going to come in first, hands in the air, to let you know that I cannot disprove your claim. The minute that I were to insist that there is no God, Vernon will follow me to demonstrate why is it that there is no God. So I'm definitely there with you. When you say metaphysics, what do you mean by that?
Metaphysics is the study of reality. How do we know what's real? What is the nature of existence? What is the nature of the world? Is it monistic, everything is one? Or is it dualistic, is everything one? One physical, one spiritual, or beyond the physical? Metaphysics, basically a study of reality. Christianity provides a comprehensive model of reality as to what the world is. It is that God is the one who creates and sustains all of reality and existence and makes it what it is.
I would think that Christianity provides a possible answer, but it just simply makes a claim. It makes the claim.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dispute that it's a claim. I would say that it is the only correct claim because it is the claim that exclusively explains reality and makes human experience intelligible. All other worldviews fall short of doing that, and that's why they're all false.
All right. So basically, you're saying that metaphysics is
the study of reality.
The science? No, I'm sorry. I would disagree there. It's a branch of philosophy.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's an abstract theory of it doesn't. There's already a system that studies what reality is.
What is it?
It's called simply science. It's just simply science.
Have you ever heard of the problem of induction?
Metaphysics is just a branch of philosophy.
Have you ever heard of the problem of induction?
Yes, I've heard it.
Okay. Can you prove the inductive method using science?
No.
Okay, so you would say it's an assumption, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here's a big question. Here's the $1 million question. What actualizes induction in your worldview?
I'm sorry. Ask again the question. What
actualizes induction in your worldview? Am I breaking up?
You're asking me for specific observations on the principle of predictions. Is that what you're asking me to do?
No. I'm not asking you to do that.
A philosophical challenge.
I'm asking you, what is the ultimate unifying causal principle that actualizes induction and makes it possible? What is that thing?
I'm sorry, but it's almost like you're asking me what makes the universe wrinkle free. It's a wrong question.
No, it's not. It's a worldview question. What keeps the universe regular?
In the inductive argument, it's nothing more. It's just a concept, a philosophical concept. It's a philosophical challenge. It's almost like the problem of solipsism. It's just a challenge. It doesn't mean that we have to really live our lives as if we are the only brain in the universe. So if you ask me if I understand what solipsism is all about, I will say, yes, I believe I understand it. It's the proposition, it's a challenge that we think that we may never be able to prove that we're not the only brain in the universe. And I have to admit, I don't know. But it doesn't mean that. How does that lead to, therefore, God? It's the part that matter of fact, how does that lead to, therefore, God, therefore, Jesus? You're making a humongous leap. I'd like to understand why.
Again, because it is the only comprehensive model of reality that is presented, and no other model of reality can give an account for human experience and make human experience intelligible. That's why it is the only correct worldview, and all others are false. That's why, and I don't think it's a leap. All of us have our presuppositions, and all of us have our reasons for our presuppositions. I'm saying that unless one presupposes God's existence and the authority of Scripture, they cannot make sense of reality. They're going to end up speaking like a solipsist and not know what reality is and know what the world is like, because they reject God's existence.
No, I don't reject. I'd like to speak for myself, not in the name of the rest of the atheists. Being an atheist just simply means that you put a proposition in front of me, and I'm going to say, okay, where's the evidence? If I don't see the evidence, it stops right there. I don't need philosophy to try to explore the possibility that there could be a God.
That's a big problem, though, because induction that science is based upon is one of the philosophical.
Science, I'm sorry, but science is not based on induction. Induction is just a philosophical challenge. It's the same.
Wait a minute, science is not based on inductive reasoning?
No.
It's not based upon observation, and then you draw a conclusion from the observation? It's not based on that?
No, it's not.
Okay, so wait a minute. I want to hear this very clearly. Science is not based on observation. You're telling me that right now?
Yes. No. I'm sorry. Maybe I didn't hear you right. Of
course,
that's what all science is. It's based on observation.
Okay. Isn't the observation based on the assumption that there is regularity in the universe? Induction.
It's not based on an assumption. It has to be a repeated. Anything in science, you have to be able to repeat it.
It's an assumption because you told me earlier that induction is not proved by science. So it's an assumption.
No, what I said is induction. Look, you have a concept of metaphysics that I disagree. Anyone can Google what metaphysics is, and they'll know whether you're right or whether I'm right.
No, I don't want to waste my time going in circles here. The question that I asked you earlier was, do you know what the problem of induction is? You said yes. And the problem of induction is that the scientific method has not proven induction. It has to be assumed. But you just said that scientists don't make assumptions. That's a contradiction.
No, science it's based on repeated tests. And if the tests lead you to the same result, it's not an assumption. At that point, it's all about semantics. What we're saying is, when we put something to the test, and I'm sure you have a smoke alarm in your house. How did it get there? Well, a group of people put it together. And
Goodbye, Gio. I'm not gonna waste my time. I'm not gonna do this. He said that he agreed with the problem of induction. That the scientific theory, or the scientific method, has not proven induction. And then he's going to say that science is based upon repeatability, just going over and over again in circles. Before you can make an experiment, for the experiment to be then repeatable or repeated, you have to have induction. You have to have induction. That there is regularity in the universe. But that is assumed. It is not proven scientifically. And this is not something that any one of us can be ignorant about with reference to science. That we are making an assumption that the future will be similar to the past. And because of that, we can expect certain things in the universe to keep going and be sustained. My question goes beyond that, and I'm asking the individual, what actualizes induction, or actualizes the fact of regularity in the universe? He doesn't want to go there. I'm not going to waste my time with anything else. That's what I want to know. The worldview that you are presenting, does it give an accounting for these 8 principles that I gave earlier in this live? Cosmology, metaphysics, anthropology, epistemology, ethics, logic, purpose or meaning, and destiny. What does your worldview give for its answer or give for its accounting of these 8 principles? If your worldview does not have them, then say it doesn't. And if you say it doesn't, then there's no point in moving on, because I'm not going to argue with a worldview that does not exist. Non-existent worldview or an incomplete or incoherent worldview, I'm not going to argue with. It's a waste of time. Facts and stats. Wait. Clittle mentioned earlier. Clittle, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Doing okay, man. Good day. Are you an atheist?
Yes.
Okay, so atheism, I don't think is a worldview. I think that you have to build on that assumption to have a worldview. So can you tell me what your worldview is?
Well, I guess my worldview, as far as, religion or atheism or that, category of philosophy is concerned, is that until it's proven, I'm not going to say that there is or is not a God.
Until it's proven how?
Until
Until you see God with your eyes and perceive it with your senses? Is that what you mean?
That could be one way that could get me closer to believing.
But isn't that demand presupposing a metaphysic which states that all things and all that exists is the natural world and natural things?
I think we're getting a little ahead here. I was asking you earlier about the syllogism related to your first claim here.
I remember.
That a little bit.
I remember you asked, and you made a knowledge claim about my syllogism, and then I asked you, from what worldview are you making that knowledge claim?
Right. So, I'd like to start over now that we're talking, rather than me just trying to fit everything in small comments at the bottom.
Yeah,
I'd like to ask you to just to make sure I understand it properly, your syllogism for your first claim there.
I'm not going to give a syllogism because it was never intended. I was just answering a question. It's a claim that the Christian worldview gives a comprehensive and coherent account of reality and makes it intelligible. And all other worldviews, because they fall short of that, are false, and Christianity is true. It's a claim. The claim can now be examined to see if it's true. And I think it'll be true when it's examined, because it has been throughout the centuries.
Okay, well, let's examine it, because you mentioned
Yeah.
necessary intelligible precondition, right?
Yeah, the universe requires a cause. That's basic. That's just to say it's simpler. That the universe requires a cause. It didn't pop out of nowhere by nothing.
Gotcha. So we're definitely, I guess, talking about, I guess cause would fall into that, but a necessary intelligible precondition is a lot more than just saying cause. So are we switching to cause now?
No, I'm not switching the cause. I'm just stipulating that there is a cause to the universe, and my answer to that cosmological question is that the cause is the ultimate unifying causal principle called God, Yahweh, who is rational, conscious, and logical. That's my claim. If you disagree with that, I would like to know what your answer is for the cosmological question. What caused the universe to exist?
Well, it's not necessarily that I disagree with that, but I'd like to examine your claim and see if it actually holds up. Because you're making a whole lot of claims in there, but I'd like you to support that with evidence.
But the thing is, though, from what standard of truth are you using to examine my claim?
It doesn't matter if you can answer questions.
Yes, of course, Clittle, it matters, because that's why I said earlier in this live, anybody come up here with a worldview, because I'm going to be giving you claims, And you're going to examine those claims, but you have to examine them from a worldview. What's the standard that you're using to examine the claim? You said it doesn't matter. Of course it matters.
So you're saying I need to have a worldview in order to question you.
Yeah, because we're comparing worldviews here. We're not neutral. There's no way that you don't have a worldview.
Who said we're comparing worldviews?
I said that.
Just because, I'm asking to examine yours. That doesn't require, I don't need a worldview to ask for evidence to yours.
Wait, you don't need to have a standard of truth to examine truth claims? You don't need to have an epistemology to examine knowledge claims?
I can have a basic understanding of logic. I think we can agree on logic and how that works.
We can agree on how logic works, but one of us has an accounting for logic. I don't think you have an accounting for logic. Where did logic come from in a naturalistic universe?
Well, that's a good question.
In your worldview.
That's a claim that the logic requires an independent accounting, and I think that's a claim that is false.
So if the claim that logic requires an accounting is false, then that means logic does not need an accounting is true. Is that correct?
Not that it doesn't need an accounting, but that it is self-accounting.
So logic is self-caused.
Logic isn't caused. It's more of like it's a descriptive language.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Where did language come from?
Well, language itself is coming from basically like humans using to communicate things. When we talk about logic, regardless of how we communicate that or use a language to communicate that with each other, that has nothing to do with actual logic itself. Like, logic exists independent of us talking about it.
That's the thing, though. I'm not going to grant that you have logic without giving accounting for logic. You haven't given an accounting. You said that it just is. It's just
logic
a brute
isn't
fact.
Something to be had. It just is. Like, for instance,
so it's a brute fact.
Logical absolutes. A equals A, the law of identity.
Yeah, these things are obvious, but your worldview does not give an accounting for them. That's the problem.
It doesn't require a worldview.
So
it's just independent of us talking about it, of the language we use to describe it. It doesn't matter what I think or believe. Does not change the fact that A equals A.
So you don't have a worldview, just to be clear.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that.
So correct me then. I don't think you have a worldview. Correct me. I don't think you have a worldview. Correct that. Am I right?
I don't need a competing worldview to ask you to justify your own. You're the one making a truth claim, so I'm asking.
Okay, I'm glad that you guys on YouTube can see what just happened. That's the thing with these atheists, man. Like, they want to come and have the theist prove to them their worldview. But the atheist does not have a worldview from which to judge if the Christian worldview is false or true. And I'm not like these other Christians on here who like to entertain you atheists. You don't have a worldview for me to argue against. You don't have a worldview to argue against mine. And we're having a conversation about what? About me proving my worldview to you. Okay. From what standard of truth in your worldview are you going to use to examine my statements about my worldview? I don't need to have a standard to examine your statements. I don't need to have a standard or a worldview to examine if your worldview is true. Like, what? So you don't need to have a measuring stick? You don't need to have a yardstick to measure? You don't need to have a standard of measure to see if what I'm saying is true or false? I mean, wow. This is amazing. This is amazing. Metal Dragon. I think that's Dragon. Let me mute this guy named Midnight. Drive by Heckler. If you want to have a conversation with me, just request up. Because now you're muted. Me Metal Dragon. Metal Dragon, how you doing?
Hey, pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. So the argument I'm giving is that Christianity is objectively provable because it is the only worldview that gives an account of reality and existence and makes it intelligible. It is by presupposing the existence of the Christian God and the authority of Scripture that anyone can make sense of reality, and anyone who rejects that cannot make sense of reality. Because Christianity is the only one that can do that, it is the true worldview, and all other worldviews are false. That's the claim.
Okay. So I guess first off, I'd like to agree that I'm a naturalist, which takes the atheistic position, but I think we do have also a duty to present evidence, counter or contradictory evidence to your claims, to claims of Christianity to support our position as atheists.
All right, I'm going to write that down. So your metaphysic is that this is a naturalistic universe. Okay.
Yes, and that would bring me to my second question, which is you claim Christianity is the only objective, reasonable answer for why we exist, but naturalism is also one. So you are rejecting naturalism based on a bias, your own personal bias.
No, I'm not. I'm rejecting naturalism because naturalism is incoherent and insufficient to explain reality. You know that in naturalism, there is no free will, right?
That's not true.
Okay, so in naturalism, I would expect. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm not even going to prove this. I mean, bro, you can literally look this up. Does naturalism account for free will? If you think it does, then tell me how you can have free will in a naturalistic universe where everything is governed by natural laws and natural effects. I would like for you to tell me how. Can you do anything without being governed?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing inherently stopping it. There's nothing that we see in the natural order of things that stops us from having free will.
And by free will, you mean the freedom to do things beyond the natural cause and effect chain, right?
No, I mean just to make our own choices, the free will to make choices. Like we don't have a determined path we're taking. We make choices in what we perceive as the present.
So just to be clear, naturalism, as far as I'm aware, and you can probably look this up and correct me because I've read this, naturalism stipulates that the universe is governed by the laws of physics and chemistry, that your brain's chemistry is imposed by physical effects that make you speak, make you act, and make you think. Is that true?
Yes, but that still doesn't imply that we don't have free will. At the very least, we could call this compatibilism, where some kind of deterministic behavior can also exist with free will.
I don't think that compatibilism is even a rational explanation because everything you do has a cause for why you did it. Everything you do. And if you are saying that you are a naturalist, then everything you do has a natural cause. Everything.
Well, then more to the point that it can be explained by natural occurrences or the nature of things. And we don't see any evidence outside of that for supernatural requirements or divine intervention. Do you see any, in this day and age, any type of divine intervention?
Yeah, I see it all the time.
Like what?
Like when somebody moves from being a non-believer to a believer.
Well, that's personal preference change. I mean, people change from believer to atheistic. I mean, what does that tell you?
That tells me that that person was never saved in the first place because the Bible gives a reasonable answer for that.
So
But let me get to the other 7. Since your worldview is that your metaphysics is naturalism, what is your anthropology? What are human beings? Are we evolved from lower bacteria into apes and then into humans, or are we something else?
Yes, I believe there's sufficient evidence to show that we did evolve from more primitive life forms to multicellular life forms.
Evolution.
Because we are multicellular life forms.
All right. So, what is your epistemology? How do you know anything with 100% certainty? What's your standard?
Well, for one, we can't know anything with 100% certainty. More than likely, I'll throw that caveat in there. But we can do empirical testing to further understand something. We do observable or observations through testing. We test it in different ways to try and find problems with it, problems with what we're seeing, to see if there's things we don't understand about it. We build our knowledge based on that.
Okay, great. On your ethics, what determines right from wrong in your worldview? What is the ultimate?
There's part of that is genetics. Part of that is what you learned in your formative years.
So you would say it's subjective.
It's subjective, yeah. Everybody's morality is subjective.
Okay.
Including other entities like lower level animals, cats, dogs.
Where do you think, in your worldview, what caused logic to exist?
It's the natural evolution of things. Like, this was something that evolved with us.
Evolution. Okay. What is the meaning of life? Why are human beings here? What's our purpose? Do we have a purpose?
We can define our own purpose. I go with existentialism, where we.
Hold on. A phone call coming in. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Yes? I don't know what that was for. Okay, someone just... Sorry about that, Metal Dragon. Someone just called me.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, so... So you're a naturalist in your metaphysic. You are you believe that we evolved in your anthropology. Your epistemology, you don't think that we can have 100% certainty. Your axiology or your ethics, it's all subjective. Logic is an emergent property from evolution. You're an existentialist in your purpose. Existentialist. What do you think happens after someone is unalived?
I mean, that's it. That's, as far as we can see, there's nothing. Like, this is it. We get this one conscious awareness life, and that is it.
Last question: where do you think we all came from? No, that's not the question. What caused the universe to exist?
Again, I think that falls into the natural order of it's. We don't have any reason to, or we don't see anything that shows there was any type of external needed causing force to start everything. That maybe it was. I believe the accepted theory right now is the Great Expansion, starting at a much smaller point. And
Big Bang. Okay, so since you acknowledge that you cannot have 100% certainty, do you have 100% certainty that you don't have 100% certainty?
So, am I certain that I'm uncertain?
Are you 100% certain that you cannot have 100% certainty?
Nope.
So you could be wrong about that.
Yeah, we could find something that we have absolute certainty for, but we don't know that. So that's kind of the thing of being conscious beings, is we don't.
And do you realize that your entire worldview falls to shambles because you've now admitted that every other answer you gave, you could be wrong about that?
Well, see, then we start. The key is to look at certainties, not like binary true or false type things. We can say we're highly certain about something, or we're maybe on the line, 50-50 on something. Like, that's how we've built up to where we are today. It's built on, testing that gives us certainties that we build on.
Yeah. But am I accurate when I say that you could be wrong about everything you claim to know, since you don't know anything with 100% certainty?
I would say that's a false claim, because
it's a false claim. How?
Yeah, because that you're looking at an extreme that's not. I don't think that's rational. I think that's non-credible.
All right, let me go one by one. Cosmology. This world came from the Big Bang. Are you 100% certain about that?
I would say that it's highly certain that that's
100% certain. You're dodging the question. Answer me directly. 100% certain about the Big Bang?
No.
Okay. No, next one.
No 100% certainty.
Are you 100% certain that this universe is only naturalistic?
Nope.
Okay. Are you 100% certain that we all evolved from apes?
Nope.
Are you 100% certain that you are not 100% certain?
Nope.
So you could be wrong about everything. You realize your worldview does not present a comprehensive account of reality because you don't even know anything.
See, you're trying to approach this at an angle that is illogical, and so
that's it, guys. I told you. Christianity provides a comprehensive model of reality, and because it does, and no other worldview can do that, Christianity is true, and all other worldviews are false. You see what just happened? In his epistemology, he said that no one can have 100% certainty. And then I asked him, do you have 100% certainty about that? He said no, which means that he's acknowledging he could be wrong that we cannot have 100% certainty. And then I asked him for all of the others. Are you 100% certain that we came from the Big Bang? No, I'm not 100% certain. Are you 100% certain that this universe is only naturalistic? No, I'm not 100% certain. Are you 100% certain that we all evolved from apes? No, I'm not. And then I asked him, are you 100% certain that you don't have 100% certainty? And he said, no. Wait a minute. So that means you could be 100% certain about what you said earlier. You see the problem, guys? This worldview falls flat on its face, and Christianity is vindicated again. Oh, Darth is requesting up. Hey, buddy. Oh, boy. I even asked him about, well, it wasn't him, it was the guy before him. How has science proved induction scientifically? No, it hasn't. It's an assumption that is made. But it's all right. Worldviews fall flat on their face when they come against Christianity. There is no rational basis for rejecting Christianity. It is irrational to reject the truth of Christianity. And that's a fact. How you doing, Darth?
Ahoy. Yeah, I can talk for about 10 minutes and then I'm going to dinner. But notice how he kept on saying, we this and we that. Okay? That's a whole lot of balderdash. All he was doing was invoking materialism or naturalism without actually defending that he knows it's the case.
Yeah, that's what he was doing. He said he's a naturalist. The universe is governed by natural laws.
Okay, so did the ground of being of naturalism engage in revelation to him?
Wait, say that again?
Did the ground of being, whatever that is in naturalism, engage in revelation and communicate to him that naturalism and its foundations are the ground of being?
I should have asked him that, but I was done.
Yeah. So what you remember my question I gave you? Can God be known if He purposes not to reveal Himself? That's you ask him that. Say good. And then you repeat the question, but you reformulate it. Can God as the ground of being be known if there are not revelatory actions? Well, the answer is no. Well, then when you start talking about naturalism and whatever its putative ground of being is, how would you be able to know that that's the case without revelatory actions? So when Romans 1 says they're without a defense, when they start spouting naturalism, where'd you get that from? Their position is even worse than ours, because ours is putatively, revelational. We're saying that the ground of all being, God, the single causal first principle, has condescended to us to reveal Himself to us through creation and through human history. But you want to say that there's a ground of all being that negates God. Well, where'd you get that from? Did the ground of all being that's not God, did it reveal itself to you? And notice when you ask him about death after life, he said, you ready? He goes like this. He goes, as far as we can see. Well, wait a minute. What does that even lame statement mean, as far as you can see? In other words, can you see past the point of death? Well, if you can't see past the if you can't see past the point of death, then how can you say, as far as we can see, there's no afterlife?
Yeah, I had that problem on here too.
It's total BS. As far as we can see, what does that even mean? You can see to the point of death from your naturalistic framework. You don't see beyond.
He's in the comments responding that science gives us the answer. Science does not tell you that
these people are village idiots. The more I study, see, I dabble in a lot of different areas: philosophy, logic, philosophy of science, right? And right now, I'm perusing through a couple of Christian philosophy of science books, and people have been so brainwashed into what is called positivism in science, they don't even realize what positivism is. Okay, which is a kind of just naturalism. It's a materialism of the gaps. So when they go to, they make a lot of statements that they can't back up.
And they think that it's there's some virtue in stating that the theists have to prove God, but they don't have to prove their position.
Yeah. So my recommendation to you is not to spend very much time discussing certainty or certitude, because it's a waste of time. What you want to focus is that when we present
Positivism defined. Positivism is a philosophical stance.
Simultaneously making an implicit or explicit worldview counterclaim. Good. Explain to me what your rational basis for that is. They don't have one. Romans 1. They are without a defense. Okay? So when they invoke naturalism or materialism, okay, good. What is the ground of all being that's not God? Did it reveal that itself to you? When they make universal, unqualified claims that the world exists with independence from God, which is a universal, unqualified claim, where'd you get that from? If we make a universal, unqualified claim that the world is God-dependent, where'd you get that from? Well, God revealed himself through creation, and that the creation is emblematic and indicative of ultimate design.
And their counterclaim does not provide any basis for denying that. None whatsoever.
No. It's not their. It's their response of no is not a rebuttal. They're giving an implicit worldview counterclaim, but that's not a rebuttal.
Right.
Okay. So we have to understand the difference between either an explicit and implicit worldview counterclaim when they object to our recapitulation of the revelation of God in creation through human history in Christ. You have to understand that their implicit worldview counterclaim, even by saying, no, I don't accept what you're saying, that's an implicit worldview counterclaim, right? That's not a rebuttal. How do they instantiate that their worldview is true? If they reject that we're in an environment of revelation from the ground of all being, God, okay, right? Are they then in a revelational environment of the ground of all being that's not God? Is it revelational? Because if not, then there would be no. How would you know what the ground of all being is? How are you going to figure that out?
That's right. They don't have one.
You see, they're just spewing naturalism with a little bit. Like when you go to get an ice cream cone, you get little colored sprinkles on it. They're sprinkling a couple of scientific phraseologies on there, but it's a nothing burger. It's a nothing cone. They're just invoking materialism. Okay, good. How do you know that the ground of all being is universally having to do with materialism? So here's the deal.
There's no way you can know that. There's no way they can know that.
The world can be construed. Notice that choice of words. The world can be construed as indicating ultimate design and intentionality. Only a moron would disagree with that. Their only response is, Yes, but it's an illusion of design, and then they'll vouch for naturalism. But they can't account for naturalism. So they don't have a defeater, right? So when the world can be indicative and emblematic of design, right, and the denial of that is impossible, then what we construe has to be necessarily true, because there's only two options. Because if they do not accept that the world is revelatory of God, which they will not do as long as they are bitterly clinging to their false belief that they are autonomous players, okay? They're not going to accept that the world is revelatory of God until they come face to face with the complete bankruptcy of their system. And they're either going to have to sit there and just bitterly cling to their incoherent and indefensible worldview, or they're going to have to repent of their false belief and go, yes, the world does reveal God by his purpose. Okay? Even some of the staunch atheist evolutionists themselves will say, yeah, the world looks designed. Yeah, the biological, it looks designed, but it's an illusion of design. Well, how do you defend it? Just saying evolution doesn't cut the mustard. The idea that mutations could build the entire genome of the animal kingdom, okay, in a vastly old and large universe is ridiculous. It's virtually statistically impossible.
That's right.
Okay, so that's why Dr. Eugene Koonin, one of the world's greatest experts on evolution and microbiology, in his own technical book defending it, invokes a multiverse, which is special pleading. So the point is, they cannot account for naturalism, right? It's even worse than our position from their perspective, because we're saying everything in the world indicates ultimate design by God's intention, right? And this is not an abductive case. It's not an inference to the best explanation. Either the world is emblematic of design, or it is not emblematic of design. So then they're going to have to explain how any state of affairs is not ultimately the product of design, right?
And they can't do
so
that.
That's why Romans 1 says they are without a defense. In other words, when they invoke an alternative model of reality, it's unjustifiable, and it's worse than our position from their perspective. If your world is shrouded in ultimate mystery, then how can you say that it is not ultimately the product of design? Right? It's shrouded in mystery. So how do you emphatically say that it's not design when it's shrouded in ultimate mystery?
How can you make any claims at all if it's shrouded in mystery?
Everything will reduce down to relativism, which then results in global skepticism. In other words, you can't know anything. Just remember, don't get sidetracked by them talking about certainty. They will waste your time talking about certainty and certitude. It's unimportant.
Right.
And by the way, remember this. Knowledge or knowing things is a subset of belief. Okay? A belief is a positive attitude toward a proposition. And we call those belief states that pass a line of demarcation with greater warrant or justification, we call that knowledge. But it's still within the category of belief. Now, you'll get people wanting to argue about it, but the point is this. If a belief is a positive attitude toward a proposition, and knowledge constitutes a positive attitude toward a proposition, then it's within the domain of belief states. It's just a special category of belief states, one that has greater strength or oomph than regular belief states. So whenever they come up and they talk about a world, however they verbalize it, then it's going to come down to they're invoking a God-independent world. Okay? How do you know that? How do you know that anything's God-independent world? Okay? You can't know that through induction. How could you figure out that any single electron exists with independence from God? What, because you're unconvinced?
It doesn't logically follow. It's a non sequitur.
Like I say, once you understand the biblical position, which is so eminently detailed in the objective proof for Christianity in the book, and I would encourage everybody to get that. And everyone who's listening, get the book. Science is God Shouting. That's a great new book I'm reading. Science is God Shouting. Did I send you the link to the book?
You sent me a link to a book called Jesus Behaving Badly.
Okay. Send me another DM later on, and I'll send you a new book. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, so I got about less than 10 minutes to talk with any unbelievers who want to come up, and then I'll be on later on tonight.
All right, I got a few in the request down here. Let me bring up Bob. Oh wait. Oh, you brought her up. Oh, you brought her up
Okay,
on your own.
Kali, what would you like to say?
I'm a believer. I asked you in the comments. Do you believe that the Earth is flat?
You got to get close to your microphone, Kali.
Oh no, I was asking you if you believe that the Earth is flat.
It's a what?
If the Earth is flat.
No, that's ridiculous. The only thing that's flat on this Earth is the top of liberals' heads.
Okay, what about you?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming.
No.
All right,
No, the Earth.
next person.
The Earth is not flat. No, I don't think the Earth is flat.
No, that's absurd. Anyone who says that is either a troll or crazy.
Jay Collins or Chris. Let's do Jay Collins.
Welcome, Jake. What would you like to say? Please, quick. I only have 2 minutes.
The Bible says the Earth is flat.
Okay, please. Okay, you're done. Bye. It does not. There are no theologians who recognize that at all. You're full of crap. Okay.
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time on such teenage stupidity. The Bible does not teach the Earth.
Jay Collins, just go look it up, man. Go look it up. No, nobody says the Earth is flat.
If you look across the spectrum of theologians, none of them agree that the Bible unambiguously says the Earth is flat. In fact, in Isaiah, it talks about the circle of the Earth.
Yeah, okay? He doesn't know what he's talking about. Chris, what would you like to say?
Yeah. I mean, it's such a ridiculous accusation. It's not even worth time spending on. Go ahead, Chris. What would you like to say?
Hey, Darth, why do you think liars are worse than pedophiles?
Bring up that old canard. I said that people who are committed to lying in the social contract, okay, undermine the very important.
What is the social contract?
There's an underlying basic social contract between all human beings that when we speak, I'm trying to answer you. Interrupt me again and you're done, okay? So what you're trying to do is a gotcha question, which is people misrepresent. Okay, get rid. Bye. He's done. See you later. Get rid.
Coward, pussy.
Bye.
Bye, pussy.
Yeah, I've dealt with you before. You're a troll.
Yeah, you're a pussy. Bye.
Wait, Darth, you can't kick him?
Contract about it,
I'll do it.
Yeah. So again, they're trying to ask a question, which is a misrepresentation of my view about people advocating that lying is okay at any time, any place, that violates the very basic social contract as human beings that will be truthful to each other when we speak. Versus there are people who would physically mistreat children. Okay, so this is from a website where they try to misrepresent what I say. I'm not talking about an instance of lying is worse than somebody.
There is a serious case of Darth derangement syndrome online, man. Trust me.
Yeah. What I'm saying is the attitude that lying is okay when it suits your purposes as a part of the social fabric and the social contract, okay, is worse than instances of people mistreating children, because our society is based upon human beings being truthful with each other in interactions. Okay, it's a fundamental social contract. All right, I'll be back.
All right, Darth, have a good one. All right. The teacher left the building. Jay Collins, I'm not bringing you back up here. Go do some more studying in theology. Stop saying that Christians believe the earth is flat. The Bible says the earth is flat. No, it doesn't. All right, Chris. Was Chris up here just now? Wasn't he just up here? I think so. I think so. Whatever. I think Chris was just up here, wasn't he? Were you just here, Chris?
Yeah, I was very quickly kicked because Darth is sort of a coward, but you know.
Oh, okay. What's your worldview?
My worldview? It's got a few perspectives, I guess.
You don't have a worldview?
What's yours? Well, I'm not decided. What's yours?
Oh, you're undecided.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. I'm not going to speak to a worldview that's non-existent. It's like speaking to something that doesn't exist. Not going to do that. Let me see. How people give dork the time of day is hilarious. Anyways, for all of you who are listening, as we look at the world and we see its exemplification, it is obvious that it is emblematic of ultimate design and intentionality. It can be construed as being designed and ordered. It can be construed as being designed and ordered. This points to an ultimate unifying single causal principle that actualizes, sustains, and governs the universe. If anyone comes up here and states that God does not exist, or you deny the existence of God, then you are implicitly proposing a model of reality that has the universe being independent of God. And if that is the case, then you have to defend that worldview. How do you know the world is independent of God? How do you know the world does not have a designer and governor? How do you know this? If you say, well, I don't know, I just don't see any evidence for God, well, guess what? Those reasons do not logically necessitate that God does not exist. So if that is all you have to work on, then you have a non sequitur. And non sequiturs in logic are illogical. Non sequiturs in, under the rubric of logic in philosophy, it is illogical. Non sequiturs are illogical. Science says the earth is an ellipse, which is similar to a pancake. Callie Robinson, I'm not going to get into the flat earth thing with you. I can't do it. Those things get nasty. You don't give a good argument. Kai Ox. Let me see if this is you requesting up. No, it's not Kai. Kai, you're saying I'm not giving a good argument. Okay, Kai, what is your worldview? What is your worldview? The guy that just came up here didn't have one. What is your worldview? A lot of you atheists think that you can give me an argument outside the Bible and I will give you the time of day. Kai, I'm done with you, girl. I'm done with you. I'm going to mute you for the rest of my live. You can just scroll past me and go somewhere else. You're done. You come up here. I remember you. You came up here and asked the dumbest question I've ever heard in my life. Prove to me Christianity without using the Bible. It's like me asking you to prove to me, prove science without using science. Prove to me the scientific theory without using science. The dumbest question I've ever heard. Yeah, you can get out of here. Don't comment on my video. Just scroll past. You're muted. Let me see who else is here. Bob Ranko. Is that Bob or Rob? It's Bob. Yeah, there's that Christian love. Mr. J, what? Telling someone that they ask a dumb question is you're sarcastically saying there's that Christian love? And that was a dumb question. Yeah, it was. It's like asking you to show someone your strength without using your strength. It's a dumb question.
I don't think you're being intellectually honest. I think he was asking, how are you making the theological jump from God to a Christian God? He wasn't asking, how do you prove Christianity with Christianity?
Oh no, not him. There was a girl that came up here earlier and said, "Prove to me Christianity without using the Bible."
Oh yeah, you can't really do that.
That was a dumb question. That was a dumb question. I wasn't talking about the other guy. With reference to what you were saying, how do you make the leap from a simple theistic God to the Christian God? Was what you said?
I mean, how do you make the jump from any God to the Christian God?
Oh, okay,
I'd
okay.
be willing to listen about.
There are no propositional codification within any theistic worldview that gives an accounting for reality that the Christian worldview does, which makes all of them false and insufficient.
Can you elaborate on that a little more? I'm not sure if I'm following.
Any religion you look at, any theistic worldview that you can think of, does not have a propositional codification in Scripture that provides a rational, coherent, and consistent account of reality that explains the reason why the world is the way it is. No other worldview does that, and that's why they're all false.
Well, I mean, are you a traditionalist when you read the Bible, or
I'm a Presbyterian. I'm a Presbyterian, but I gave you my worldview. What is your worldview?
I'm an atheist.
Okay. Does Bob the atheist have a worldview?
What do you mean by worldview? What do I think about the world?
What is your position on cosmology, metaphysics, anthropology, epistemology, ethics, logic, purpose, destiny? These philosophical questions, do you have answers for them?
Let's go one by one.
All right, cosmology. What does Bob the atheist think about the origin of the universe? What caused it?
I can't say with certitude what exactly caused the universe.
So you would say you don't know?
Progression. Do you?
I just want to know your worldview, man. You don't know?
Well, I'm not sure with certitude, but I am sure there are many physicists and scientists who could offer you very reasonable explanations far above levels that I could.
So what does your worldview say, Bob? I'm looking to write it down here.
I believe that there's going to be, as there is not currently, a naturalistic explanation for the world, just as we've found.
So you would say you don't know?
Well, we used to not know where earthquakes, how they happened. We didn't know how
Okay, so you don't know.
Caused.
Okay, don't know. All right, next one, metaphysics. What is the nature of reality? Is it just a natural, or is there something beyond it?
Metaphysics?
Yeah, the study of reality.
Well, metaphysics isn't reality. Metaphysics would be non-reality.
Oh boy, this is very.
Metaphysics wouldn't be conforming to the naturalistic world. But
the metaphysics in philosophy is the study of reality. What is real? What is the nature of reality? In your worldview, what is the nature of reality? What is it? Is it just naturalistic, or is there something more?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a physicalist, so.
Okay, so reality is just natural. Okay, good. We're getting somewhere. Anthropology. What is the nature of human beings? Do we evolve from lower bacteria, or is there something else?
Yeah, I definitely believe in evolution.
Okay.
And also, when speaking of anthropology, I mean, if you look at the Bible,
evolution.
6,000 years ago, I mean, we have archaeological evidence that predates.
Epistemology. How do you know what you know? What is your knowledge? What is your knowledge standard?
Justified true belief.
Justified true belief. The J in the JTB. What is your ultimate J?
It depends. It's kind of situational. I would say for the most part, not deriving or not entailing a contradiction.
Not entailing a contradiction? Okay, let me be more specific. Do you filter everything that you know through your senses and reasoning to know things?
I mean, what do you mean? Give me an example.
Every knowledge claim that you ever make, do you filter it through your senses and reasoning?
I try my best to. I mean, I don't know what you're getting at.
All right. What is your view on ethics? Is everything subjective, or is there an objective standard by which we can know right from wrong?
I mean, I think it's value-based. I think it's subjective.
Okay,
and
subjective.
I think at best you can get intersubjectivity, and then you can, like, you know, kind of throw that out as objective.
So it's all up to it's all opinion then. Okay, great. Where did the capacity for logical discourse come from in a naturalistic universe?
Intelligent beings' brains.
Okay, intelligent beings' brains. Where did intelligence come from in the brains of the beings?
Through evolution, we've needed higher brain capacities to survive, which explains why some animals.
Next one. What is the purpose for human existence?
I mean, there doesn't necessarily need to be a purpose for human existence.
So there's no purpose.
Sure. That's not like a crux of like.
Okay, what happens after unalivement? What happens after you pass away?
Just as it was before.
Nothing, right?
Well, once again, I'm not certain, but that is what I believe.
Okay. So the account that I gave earlier from the Christian worldview, are you saying that the Christian worldview is false and yours is correct?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm correct, but I also don't think that anyone in the world can say that their view is 100% correct.
Okay, I mean, from a worldview, from a worldview where you don't have 100% certainty about anything, how can you make a knowledge claim like that and be certain?
I mean, because we can test it. I mean, we have like the scientific method. Just because like some things are arbitrary doesn't mean that like.
Has the scientific method proven induction?
Induction?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the inductive? Have you heard of the inductive problem? The problem of induction?
Induction is just trying to find a truth value without 100% certainty, but with like.
Okay, let me just pull this up on my screen here. The problem of induction, famously articulated by David Hume, questions the justification for making predictions about the future based on past observations. Do people in science make predictions about the future based on past observations, Bob?
Sure.
Okay. Did you know that this is induction?
Sure.
And that this has not been proven by science. Did you know that?
What hasn't been proven by science?
Induction.
That sounds circular. What do you?
No, it's not circular at all.
Induction can't prove induction.
I'm trying to point out that induction is a problem for people who say that everything has to be proven scientifically, because that hasn't been proven. It's an assumption.
Well, you just put words into my mouth. I didn't say that everything has to be proven scientifically.
Okay. Sorry for putting words in your mouth. What is your view on evidence then? Isn't it scientific?
I believe that most of, if not all of the evidence I follow to be scientific. However, I didn't posit that these scientific laws we have 100% certainty for.
Let me ask you again, because you gave a very vague answer.
No, that was very direct.
Is your view on evidence scientific?
Is my view scientific?
Your view on evidence.
Scientific evidence is scientific. Yes.
I'm not. That's not what I asked you. I'm asking you your view on evidence. What you accept as evidence for anything, must it be scientifically proven?
Well, what would be non-scientifically proven evidence?
Wow, man. Yo, you're really dodging the question here. It's a very simple question. I asked you that.
Well, I'm trying to gauge like what you're asking because I clearly think I've given you multiple answers. You don't think they're sufficient. I'm trying to gauge what your question is.
I'm trying to find out if I'm trying to find out if
scientific evidence.
Your view on evidence, must it be scientifically proven? It's a simple question.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
We can have things that are unexplained that can be explained by science that just haven't yet.
Okay. So you take the position that whatever has not been explained by science yet will be explained.
Just as many occurrences have in the past.
So your position on reality is that everything is natural and what has not been explained naturally will be explained.
That is, yeah. Sure.
Okay. So very, very quickly, the scientific method of induction, or the scientific method which is based on induction, that has not been proven scientifically, but you believe it.
This is such... I don't think you understand what you're saying here. You're telling me that science hasn't proved induction, but induction isn't like a scientifically like proven thing. Like induction is a method where you're trying to find a truth value to a certain extent. That is, it's like trying to, it's deduction without 100% certainty. I don't think you understand what induction is. Science won't prove induction because
I do know what induction is. Induction is based on observation.
It's not science. It's completely different.
I know induction is not science. That's the point. I'm trying to point out. That's what I'm saying. You're begging the question. I'm trying to point out that you have an assumption in your worldview that everything will be proven naturally. What is your evidence that everything is natural in the universe? What is your evidence for that? Okay, he jumped. And that was the $1 million question, everybody. His worldview is that he is a naturalist, a physicalist. Okay, what is the evidence for that? How do you know everything is natural? How do you know everything is natural? How do you know that? You don't know. It's an assumption. It's an assumption. I'm glad he saw it. Sketty. Welcome, Sketty.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you very well, very well. I'm sure that you've been hearing the conversations, so just tell me what your worldview is before we continue.
I'm an atheist.
Now, it's very, very funny that when I ask people their worldview, they say they're an atheist, as if it explains everything. Okay, so what does that explain?
I'm not gonna lie. The question is actually kind of odd. I don't know what you mean by a worldview. I feel like that can mean a bunch of different things.
Okay. Do you have a position on what caused the universe to exist?
I don't believe that we can know how the universe exists.
Okay, you don't know. Okay.
I think it's just one of those things that we can't explain. At the very least, right now.
Are you a naturalist?
For the most part, probably. I'm not good with the big words like that, so I don't know if there's some definitions that I might have.
Let me explain. Do you think that do you know that the universe is only natural?
Again, I don't think we can know that either.
Okay, don't know. Okay, do you think we came from...
I think for the most part, you would have to know everything to make that call. Or at least have some kind of evidence that the spiritual world or the supernatural world exists somehow. But I don't think I have any evidence for that, so I couldn't believe it.
Anthropology, what do you think? Do you think the human beings evolved from lower life forms?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that morality is subjective or objective?
Subjective.
Okay. What do you think the purpose of life is?
I don't know if we can know that either.
Okay, don't know. Last
And
one.
by the way, I hear that you're writing I don't know, and that's true, but I'm specifically saying I don't think we can know. I think there's a difference there.
That's a knowledge claim, but I'm just writing it down. Last thing, after we are unalived, what happens after that?
I do not know.
Okay. So the last one you said you do not know, and the other ones you think we cannot know. How can you make? How do you know that we cannot know? Is what I'm very curious about.
Maybe I'm phrasing that in a weird way. When I say I don't think we can know, I don't think we have evidence for whatever that claim is.
Yeah, don't you see the assumption in that claim, basically that the universe is naturalistic and nothing beyond it, so you can't have evidence for those things?
Well, I'm not saying that. That's why I didn't want to use the word naturalist, because I don't know if there is a supernatural out there.
So there's a whole lot of I don't know, and I don't think that anyone can know. There's a whole lot of that here.
Well, that's why I'm an atheist.
Okay. So from a worldview where you don't know and cannot know, or think you cannot know, are you making knowledge claims that Christianity is false and you know it's false?
I would personally, I do believe it's false, but I think evidentially we can't know if it's true.
Wouldn't that logically follow that you can't know if it's false either?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't it logically follow that in your worldview you can't know if it's true or false? You can't know?
Not necessarily. Again,
Okay.
Evidence would change that.
How would
I
you
couldn't
know?
if there was evidence.
How would you know if it was false?
How do I know if it's false? How do I know if Christianity is false?
Yeah, how do you know it's false?
I guess there would be a claim made by Christianity that was proven untrue.
Proven how?
It would depend on the claim.
Okay, the God of Christianity exists. What is the evidence that proves that's not real?
I think there's a lot of different definitions for God, but if you're talking about a God who is all loving, all knowing, and all powerful, I don't think you can be all three of those at the same time.
Well, because there's suffering in the world?
For the most part, yeah, that's a good way of saying it.
Okay, so what's suffering in your worldview?
What is suffering? Give me a definition. I'll probably agree with it.
All right. Let me change the word. What's evil in your worldview?
What is evil? Something that is not good. But again, that's subjective.
What's not good?
Again, that's subjective.
Okay, so when you make the proposition, an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful God would be very difficult to believe exists if there is evil and suffering in the world. When your view on evil and suffering is just an opinion, how would that logically follow that God doesn't exist?
Because I don't think God would allow for unnecessary suffering.
So it's based on an opinion. I just don't think that it would just be so because
right, because
Sketty,
when I say an atheist, to make it very, very clear, I'm not saying that there are not gods, or I'm specifically saying that I don't know that there is one.
So you're saying that you just don't think that evil and suffering would exist if this God exists. You just don't think so therefore God doesn't exist.
Well, yes, yeah.
You see the problem there? You see it?
What is it? What is the problem?
The problem is you're making an observation, and from that observation as an individual, you're then saying that God doesn't exist.
Well, right, and I am an atheist.
The observation is a particular, not an observation that is universal. And because it's not universal, to make a claim like that is a non sequitur.
Say that again for me.
Let me try to put it this way.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It doesn't logically follow that because one guy named Sketty doesn't think that evil and suffering would exist if an all-loving, all-knowing, all-powerful God exists. That there is no God who is all-loving, all-powerful, and all-knowing. It doesn't logically follow that just because you don't think that he would exist. That
That's just my reasoning for why I don't believe. So, right, it's subjective to me.
Okay, thank you for sharing your opinion, man. I appreciate it.
Well, wouldn't you think that it? Am I still here? Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, you are.
Wouldn't you think? Wouldn't it be? How do I say this? If you're having conversations with people online, don't you think it's like, are you trying to just? Well, I don't understand what the purpose of this is. Because if I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm coming to you, asking, "How do you know God exists?" And you just keep telling me, "Well, He does," because it's subjective that I don't believe it. I don't think it matters what I believe. Can't you prove it?
Well, the thing is, man, I'm not going to argue against somebody who just says it is their opinion that God doesn't exist.
Well, it's not. It's not my opinion that God doesn't exist. It's my opinion that I don't believe He exists.
How are they different? I don't believe God exists and God doesn't exist. How are they different?
Because my mind can change if I'm given evidence.
Thank you so much for your time, man. You have a good day now. All right?
You too,
Respect. Respect. I want everybody to know, all 13 of you on here and everybody on my YouTube channel right now who is watching, I am not going to debate with an atheist who says that it is their opinion that God doesn't exist. Or rather, it is their opinion that, is rather their position that they just don't believe God exists. I don't care about atheists like that. I don't give a damn. I don't care. If you're saying that God doesn't exist, period, then we can have a conversation, because I would love to hear how you know God doesn't exist. But if you're just talking and sharing your opinion, I mean, you can say God doesn't exist and I can say God exists, and we can just walk away from the conversation right there. There's no reason to continue. None whatsoever. It's just your opinion. God, oh, you don't believe God exists. Okay, fine. I believe He does. Let's end it there. This guy, drive-by heckler, he said he cooked me and I kicked him. You and now you're muted. You have a good afternoon, sir. Mary Burke. I don't know who Mary Burke is. Look, guys, Christianity, in its positive presentation, presents and provides a comprehensive and coherent account of reality. When you say that you are an atheist, you are implicitly or explicitly denying the Christian worldview. And if you are denying the Christian worldview, then you have to present a defeater, a worldview that disproves the Christian worldview. Sketty asked him about cosmology. He said he doesn't think anyone can know. I asked him about metaphysics. He says he's a naturalist. I asked him about anthropology. He said we all evolved from lower bacteria. I didn't get anything on epistemology. I asked him about ethics. He said ethics is subjective. But then he wants to talk about how a God who's all-knowing, all-loving, and all-powerful would not allow evil. Well, what's evil? What's evil in your worldview? There is no evil. It's all subjective. Oh my goodness. I didn't ask him about logic, unfortunately. Purpose. He says he doesn't know what the purpose of human life is. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Ethics and morality are not different things in philosophy, Sketty. It's philosophy. Philosophy under the rubric axiology. Ethics and morality. They're not different things. Your ethics are your morals. They're not different things. And if you don't believe me, just look it up. They're not different things in philosophy. Oh boy. Okay. Here it is. Morals are personal beliefs about right and wrong, while ethics are established, societal, or professional guidelines for conduct. The reason why morals and ethics are not different is because both of them are ultimately subjective. Because societal guidelines for conduct are made by people in higher classes of society. Governments, governors, rulers, all people who decide what is wrong from what is right for the society, which is ultimately, here's the big word, subjective. If you believe morality is subjective, you're also saying that ethics are subjective. And then you're going to ask a question about how can an all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God exist and evil exist? Well, what's evil? It's all subjective, man. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. There's no evil. There's no evil in your worldview. There's none. The evil that you can point to in your worldview is what a society agrees upon or what an individual thinks. It's all subjective. So to ask the question about a God who's all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing, how can he exist and evil exist? Well, first of all, it presupposes that a sovereign God cannot have a plan where evil exists. And the presupposition is just categorically false. Categorically false. But anyways, let me... Darth is coming back up. Hey, Darth. I'm practicing, Darth. I'm practicing. I have to practice to get better at this, okay? I'm practicing.
Third grade teacher would always say, practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I'm practicing. I'm not gonna be as good as I want to be yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Well,
Yeah,
study that book, The Objective Proof for Christianity.
Yeah, I'm still getting through it. I'm studying it. I had this guy come up here earlier.
How they commit numerous performative contradictions and the reason.
No, I just had an example. I had this guy come up here and said that ethics are subjective, and then I asked him, why does God doesn't exist? He said an all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God doesn't exist essentially because there's evil. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's evil? You said morality is subjective. What's evil? He didn't have a definition. That's a performative contradiction because there is no evil, there is no righteousness, there's no good or bad in a worldview that is subjective.
They're attacking a straw man. So what they're saying is a maximally benevolent God would not permit natural evils. But if God doesn't reveal himself, then how would you know what would or would not be compatible with a creator's plan? Okay? Because the Bible lays out that the natural evils were not a part of the original creation, but they were implemented by God as a temporal judgment and to facilitate his overall plan of redemption, to motivate people not to love this present world and to seek him, to be right with him in the afterlife. Okay? So God says that the natural evils were not compatible with his initial creation, but they are compatible with his temporal judgments. Okay? So they're attacking the straw man. Okay? So they're going to have to say that a maximally benevolent God could not have sufficient reasons for his plan of redemption to allow these natural evils. Okay?
That's right. That's right.
Notice they don't talk about God's plan. They just talk about God as a monolith of benevolence. Right? So there's the logical problem of evil, then there's the evidential problem. There is no logical problem of evil that contradicts the existence of God. So the evidential problem is that the natural evils make it less likely that a maximally benevolent God would exist. Okay? But that's only if they conclude rationally that God couldn't have his own sufficient reasons for implementing that. And implementing, of course, would entail his plan of human history, or as we say in the Bible, his redemptive history.
They're making a lot of knowledge claims about God, which presupposes his existence, which is a performative contradiction.
They're attacking a misrepresentation. Okay?
Yeah, Amarion, welcome.
What's up? I have a question, Darth. I was talking to you the other day a little bit. How would you go about the transcendental argument? Like if you were talking to an atheist, how would you go about it?
Well, it depends on which way they want me to go. If they want me to present the case for God, which they already know that our position, the only position that we can present for God's existence is that the world reveals God and God has revealed himself through the prophets and Jesus Christ. Once they reject that, they're instantaneously, if they so much as say, nah, bro, then they're making an implicit worldview counterclaim, which they're going to have to explain. Now, when you then ask them to explain their worldview counterclaim, then they pull the atheological apologetics routine by going, you're shifting the burden of proof. No. Asking you to explain your position is not me shifting the burden of responsibility. Okay?
Yeah, so when I kind of used that, they said that, or I was talking to the atheist in a live earlier, and he basically said that it was an argument to, I guess, not know. I forgot the word. I guess it's a fallacy. He used a certain fallacy that was used.
Yeah, they're full of crabs.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. I was saying
get the book, The Objective Proof for Christianity, and study that book like your life depends upon it, and you will be very well along the way to effectively representing the Bible. I mean, you can if you study the Bible, but getting this book will give you a shortcut to understanding the ramifications and implications of what the Bible says. So it's called The Objective Proof for Christianity. Just don't read it, study it. Okay?
I appreciate you, man.
Okay? For the next year, study that book. Read it 3-4 times. Study it. Okay?
The objection, or you said the what?
The Objective Proof for Christianity by Bonson, edited by Joshua Pillows.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate you too. Adrian and I and all the Christians trying to share the gospel with unbelievers and defending the faith against all opposition. We appreciate all of you people who come up and give us moral support. Much appreciated.
Much appreciated. Darth, I'm going to go have some dinner, man. Thank you for coming back up again. You're welcome anytime, man. Trust me.
For coming up. But don't you eat too much again.
I try my best. Later,
right,
bro.
Thanks for having me up. Okay, bye. See you later.
All right, let's end this here.